Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Make sure to like this video, go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, and check out everything we have to offer over at thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and also sign up for our expert picks. We are on a fantastic run right now, 65% over the past 2 weeks, 5-5 this week. Didn't make any money, didn't lose any money, just the way we like it when we have a week like this. But we are on a fantastic trend right now, and we expect an even better week 12. You can also check out everything we have to offer over on BetNow by using our promo code GRIDIRON, where you will get a 50% sign-up bonus. So don't miss out on any of these offers and any of this content. Check out everything we have in the description below. Well, I just want to start, as we recap Week 11, by saying, give Joe Burrow the Heisman. That man deserves it. He is the front runner, and no one's going to take it away from him. And also, the LSU Tigers are college football playoff bound. Book it. Ed Orgeron and LSU are going to the college football playoff. In the game of the year, as many have called it, LSU defeated Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, 46-41, and it absolutely lived up to the hype. It's the game that everybody was talking about all week long, and this game lived up to the hype. Two fantastic quarterbacks. Tua was back, played his heart out in this game. Joe Burrow putting up huge numbers, 31 for 39, 64 rushing yards, but 393 passing yards and 3 touchdowns against that Alabama defense that, as we mentioned, has not been as dominant as it's been in recent years, but it's still a pretty good defense, and he did that at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And those 64 rushing yards we mentioned are extremely key because he picked up a few of those on what many are calling his Heisman moment, on a third down conversion where he pulled the ball away from Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a read option play that allowed LSU to pick up the first down late in the fourth quarter, end up scoring a late touchdown to really seal the deal. So many are calling that his Heisman moment on a phenomenal run that gave LSU that victory. Now, Tua Tagovailoa put up great numbers as well. 418 yards and 4 touchdowns. So his return game, after missing out for a few weeks, looked like he hadn't missed a beat, looked like he really wasn't injured at all. But it was Tua that committed some costly turnovers that really benefited LSU in this game. Tua fumbled in the red zone early in the first quarter, right at the beginning of the game, fumbled in the red zone, which then turned into an LSU touchdown, and then later, towards the end of the first half, threw a very costly interception that resulted in an LSU touchdown that put the Tigers up 33-13 at halftime. A 20-point lead for LSU going into halftime against Alabama in a game where the Crimson Tide actually never led. They cut it to 5 with 5 minutes and 30 seconds left, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire, after that brilliant Joe Burrow run, punched it in to put LSU up for good. LSU wins by 5, snaps Alabama's 31-game home winning streak, and could it have possibly ruined Alabama's college football playoff hopes for the rest of 2019. It'll be very interesting to see first how the rest of this season plays out. And then it will be very interesting to see where the College Football Playoff Committee ranks the Crimson Tide following this loss. Of course, the playoff rankings coming out on Tuesday. You can find out where we rank Alabama in our top 25, which will of course be coming out on Monday, and then we will be analyzing the playoff committee's rankings on Tuesday. Alabama, I do not think is done. I do not think their playoff hopes are over, but they took a major hit with this home loss against an LSU team that, in my opinion, is playing like the best team in the entire country. Way up north, though, outside of the game of the year, we had another huge game, one that probably got overshadowed a little bit because of LSU and Alabama, but Minnesota rowing the boat to the Big Ten title game. P.J. Fleck and the Golden Gophers taking down number 4 Penn State 31-26. And I want to go on record right now and say that I was wrong. I picked Penn State to win this game, and I thought Penn State would dominate this game. I thought the Nittany Lions were going to take fairly easy care of Minnesota, winning this game, like as I said, by at least 10 points. Because I said Minnesota hadn't really played anybody. Their combined records for their Big Ten opponents that they had defeated were 17-28, and they struggled at the beginning of this season. So I was wrong, and I own up to it. We always own up to our losses here at the Gridiron Expert, and this was absolutely one of them. A monumental win for Minnesota in a game where Penn State's defense looked like they didn't even show up. Because while their rushing defense still remained one of the better in the entire country, their passing defense, which we said was weak, was horrible, allowing Tanner Morgan, the quarterback for Minnesota, to complete 90% of his passes. 18 for 20 on the day, 339 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And the wide receiver, Rashad Bateman, how about this guy? 203 yards receiving and adding a touchdown as well. Penn State could not get a stop against this Golden Gophers offense, and it didn't help that Sean Clifford threw 3 interceptions in this game. So PJ Fleck in Minnesota moved to 9-0, their best start and their best mark since 1904. And they absolutely look like Big Ten title contenders and absolutely college football playoff contenders. This win over the 4th-ranked team in the country should propel Minnesota into the top 10, at least number 11, if not the top 10, winning this game by 5 in a game that I'll actually say looked a little bit closer than the game really was, because Minnesota dominated this game from start to finish. So congratulations, Minnesota, on this huge win. It's very possible that the Golden Gophers could finish undefeated before facing off against what should be an Ohio State team in the Big Ten Championship. So we missed that one. We take it, move on. But congratulations to PJ Fleck and the Golden Gophers, looking like a serious contender across the board this season. We had a couple of Big 12 heavyweights have some major scares this past Saturday. And we'll start with Baylor, the only Big 12 team that remains undefeated and remained undefeated this Saturday by coming back from a 9-0 deficit against TCU on the road. All field goals in regulation. 3 field goals for the Horned Frogs, 3 field goals for Baylor, but they were down 9-0, winning this game actually 29-23 in triple overtime. The Bears struck first in the 3rd one and then got an interception in the 3rd overtime to seal the deal and win by 6 to remain undefeated. So a huge scare for Baylor, and they've given their fans a lot of scares over the past few weeks. The Cardiac Bears, as I'd like to call them, narrowly escaping TCU, narrowly escaping West Virginia, narrowly escaping Iowa State, narrowly escaping Texas Tech, but nonetheless, Matt Rule and Baylor are undefeated. They are, in fact, a top 10 team, regardless of what the College Football Playoff Committee thinks. They are a top 10 team, and they deserve to be in the top 10, as they are sitting at number 12 right now. Baylor setting up a huge showdown against Oklahoma this coming Saturday in Week 12, and Oklahoma survived a major scare of themselves for having big-time flashbacks to 2017 as they faced off against Iowa State. As we all know, back in 2017, the Cyclones came into Norman and upset the Sooners, one of the biggest upsets of that season, beating them 38-31. In a game like this, Oklahoma looked to be running away with it, leading by 21 points. They were up 35-14 at one point. But give all the credit in the world to Iowa State, Brock Purdy, and Matt Campbell for not losing hope, for not giving up, and battling for the full 60 minutes. Iowa State was forcing turnovers. They figured out how to shut down Jalen Hurts in the second half, and Iowa State even scored a touchdown with just 20 seconds remaining. They went for 2, though, as I probably would have done as well against a top 10 team on the road. Brock Purdy had a phenomenal throw in the end zone, sandwiched between 2 defenders, but they were unable to hold on, and Oklahoma escaped with a 42-41 victory over the Cyclones. The Cyclones, one of the few teams that have given Oklahoma issues in the past few years, especially under Matt Campbell, defeating them 2 years ago, only losing by 10 to Oklahoma last year, now losing by 1 this year in Norman. But regardless, Lincoln Riley and his Sooners escape. They keep their playoff hopes alive, keep their Big 12 title hopes alive, and set up a huge showdown against Baylor, where College Game Day is rightfully going in Week 12. So that game going to be huge for many reasons, because Baylor has the opportunity in Waco to remain undefeated and solidify themselves as playoff contenders. Oklahoma once again in this game, has to win against Baylor to keep their playoff hopes alive, as they are already a one-loss team. So a huge one coming in Waco on Week 12. Already can guarantee you that's our game of the week. You're not going to want to miss our analysis on that. And then a couple of storylines in the Big Ten that we want to mention before we get to everything we have up here on the board. We've got Wisconsin taking down Iowa 24-22. An absolutely thrilling game, defensive battle game as we mentioned. Very low scoring between these two squads. Now, we mentioned in our Week 11 predictions, we mentioned why this was such a big game. It was because the winner of this game is the only competitor to Minnesota in the Big Ten West. And we, at the time, thought Minnesota was going to lose to Penn State. So now Wisconsin, who defeated Iowa, has a much difficult road to get to the Big Ten championship game, as they're going to need a win out and hope Minnesota slips up somewhere else, especially to Wisconsin when they play in the season finale. The odds of the Badgers getting in there, to me, look fairly slim, but crazier things have happened. So Minnesota, Wisconsin, the only teams that have a shot to win the Big Ten West right now, even though the Golden Gophers have yet to face the Badgers and the Hawkeyes. So a huge win for Paul Chryst and Wisconsin, but an even bigger win for Lovie Smith and the Illinois Fighting Illini. I want you to go out and find somebody that thought Illinois was going to win 6 games this year, or 7, or 8. Illinois just moved to 6-4 and clinched bowl eligibility for the first time since 2014 with the largest comeback in school history. The Fighting Illini were down 28-3 at Michigan State. Not necessarily a powerhouse this year, but Mark D'Antonio and the Spartans at home, I thought were going to take care of business. By, I thought, less than 2 touchdowns. We picked Illinois in the spread to cover. They were 15-point underdogs, and they did because they won straight outright. Down 28-3, came back and won 37-34. Some clutch turnovers down the stretch, and a touchdown with just a few seconds remaining. Unbelievable performance from the Fighting Illini. Those solid transfers, Brandon Peters, the defensive transfers across the board. They're buying into this system. Lovie Smith, the guy that was on the hot seat coming into 2019, definitely has his name off it. The Fighting Illini are clicking. They are one of the hottest teams in the country right now. Bravo to them. Another game that I missed, another team that I missed across the board. Only expected Illinois to win 4 games this season. So it's the beauty of college football. Anything is possible. Anything can happen on any given Saturday. So those are your biggest storylines and games of Week 11. We knew we had some big ones. 2 battles of the unbeatens where we saw the number 3 in Alabama and number 4 team in Penn State both go down, which means we're going to see some major shakeups in the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday. And we're going to see a much tighter race to see who can clinch the top 4 spots in the playoff when Selection Sunday rolls around in December. And of course, we'll touch more on that when we release our rankings on Monday and when we do our rankings live stream on Tuesday. But right now, I want to take a look at our teams trending up and trending down and how we did this week across the board. As you can see, we went 16-12 straight up this week, so 57.1%. Obviously missed a handful of games in there. Credit to LSU. Didn't think the Tigers were going to pull it off in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I thought it was going to be a close one, but I didn't think LSU would do it. Nick Saban's team was simply outplayed and outcoached by Ed Orgeron, and Orgeron's a guy that I have a lot of respect for. Was so happy to see him get this win over Alabama, a true Cajun at heart, a guy that had dreamed of coaching LSU, getting his moment to coach his team, and he is making the absolute most of it, has the Tigers in a prime position to win the national championship this season. So we missed that one. We missed the Minnesota game. We missed the Illinois game. Missed a handful here and there, but 16-12. 57.1% brings our overall to 310-99. So we cracked 300 wins on the year, just avoided 100 losses on the year. I'm sure that one's coming in Week 12, but hey, we'll delay it for as long as we can. So 75.8% on the year. You round that up, we're at 76. And of course, that's right where we want to be every single year, if not better, here at the Gridiron Expert. Against the spread, we already mentioned going 5-5, right at 500. So not a phenomenal week, not a bad week. You break even, don't win anything, you don't lose anything. 65% over the past 2 weeks. We're 55.8% on the year, which doesn't sound great to some, but you round that up, that's 56%, well above 500. Still one of the better marks out there across all of the major networks and across all of the major analysts. So We're doing extremely well against the spread for our first year releasing it to you guys. We're pleased with it, and we're ready to hit it big again in Week 12. Taking a look at teams trending up real quick, we'll start with Virginia Tech. And I know my guy out there, Hunter Shin, is probably pretty happy to see his Hokies with 6 wins on the year and a team trending up right now. They've won 4 of their last 5 games since that 45-10 blowout against Duke back in September. And the only loss in that 5-game stretch was just last week, a 1-point loss against Notre Dame, a game that Virginia Tech probably should have won. They defeated number 19 Wake Forest this past week, 36-17. Might be enough to drop Wake Forest out of the top 25. And don't look now, but Virginia Tech is on track to potentially have a showdown against Virginia in the season finale that could very well determine the Coastal Division. If Virginia Tech wins out in conference play, which is extremely possible, Virginia's only conference game remaining is against Virginia Tech. That game in the season finale could determine who wins that division, which is extremely surprising because I don't think many people consider the Hokies to be legitimate Coastal contenders, especially early on in the season in 2019. Moving down, we've got Tennessee. Crazy, just crazy to see how much can change in a short amount of time in the world of college football. Both for Tennessee and BYU, both teams we'll mention here in a second, but both were teams that we had on our trending down board just a few weeks ago. The Volunteers start off the season 1-4, but are now 5-5. 4-1 in their past 5 games, including wins over Mississippi State, South Carolina, and just yesterday over Kentucky. The Volunteers have games against Missouri, who's trending down, we'll get to them in a second, and Vanderbilt, arguably the second to worst team in the SEC, only ahead of Arkansas. Tennessee wins one of those, or maybe wins both of those, and they are going bowling under Jeremy Pruitt. And I'm sure for many, after the start that Tennessee had, especially with that loss to Georgia State, that's something that not many thought was possible this season. Same could be said for BYU, who had a strong start to the season, including a win over Tennessee, but found themselves at 2-4 just a few weeks ago. They were on our teams trending down back in Week 7, but now they're trending up, having won 3 in a row. They're 5-4, and 3 of those wins have come against quality opponents. They beat Boise State, they beat Utah State, and they just beat Liberty, who is on a roll right now under Hugh Freeze. They already have 6 wins so far this season. There's a very good chance that BYU can be 7-4 before they have a huge showdown against San Diego State in the season finale. So a lot of respect, a lot of credit to Kalani Sitake for not giving up on this season. Rough first half, they're really finishing strong in the second half. Teams trending down, I hate to have them up there, but I've got Arizona State. And I hate to have him up there because I love Herm Edwards, one of my favorite coaches in all of college football. I love the passion and the intensity and the style that he brings to that Sun Devils football program. They were 5-1, and I was pumped. I was happy to see Arizona State doing so well. I was happy to see them being Pac-12 South title contenders. But they've lost 3 straight. They're 5-4. They lost by 18 points to Utah, they lost by 10 points to UCLA, and just yesterday they lost by 5 points in a heartbreaker to USC. And unfortunately for the Sun Devils, it's not going to get any easier as they have to face off against an improving and surprising Oregon State team. Then they have to face off against Oregon, the number 7 team in the country, and then close the year off against Arizona. I do think the Sun Devils win at least one of those games to go bowling for the 2nd straight year under Herm Edwards, but you can't help but look and think what could have been after a phenomenal 5-1 start. We've got Missouri trending down now. Of course, a team that we mentioned earlier because they face off against Tennessee not too long from now. Missouri started off the season like Arizona State, 5-1. They controlled their own destiny in the SEC East after Florida was falling, after Georgia was falling to South Carolina. But they dropped 3 straight. When they found out they could control their own destiny, Missouri did a Missouri thing and said, I think we'll lose to Vanderbilt. Because that makes sense. They lost to Vanderbilt by 7. They lost to Kentucky by 22. And just yesterday lost to Georgia in blowout fashion, getting shut out in Athens. So a year that many had high expectations for Missouri, especially with the addition of Kelly Bryant. The Tigers are sitting at 5-4, but should go bowling with games against Tennessee and Arkansas remaining on their schedule. should beat Arkansas, almost a guarantee now. Have a very good shot at beating Tennessee as well. So a disappointing year for Missouri after the start they had, but should clinch bowl eligibility if in fact they are eligible, as they're still going under that investigation and still waiting on the hearing from the NCAA. And then finally, we have West Virginia closing it out on our teams trending down. The Mountaineers started off 3-1 with a quality win over North Carolina State. Since then, though, they have lost 5 in a row, sitting at 3-6, including a 38-17 home loss to Texas Tech on Saturday. We knew Neal Brown was going to struggle in year one with the Mountaineers, especially with all the key pieces that West Virginia lost from last year's team. Will Greer, David Sills, phenomenal players on the defensive side of the ball. So we knew it was going to be a rebuilding year. We actually had the Mountaineers going 3-9. And there's a very good chance they could do that because their final 3 games are against Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and TCU. None of those, I do not believe that West Virginia will win. Neal Brown, rough first year, but I do believe he's the right man for the job. And Morgantown, new coaches, you got to give them time. You got to expect a rebuilding year and a rough year in their first one with their respective schools. So West Virginia losing 5 straight, definitely trending down. But Mountaineer fans, be patient. Neal Brown is going to get you back on track very, very soon. So there you have it, guys. There's your Week 11, one of the biggest weeks in college football we've had all season long. 2 battles of the unbeaten. Minnesota survives, LSU survives. Major shakeups coming in the college football playoff rankings, conference races, and playoff races heating up as we near the end of November. Things are just now getting good, and I can promise you don't want to miss any of the football action and any of the content here at the Gridiron Expert. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to go follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Expert. Check out the official website for the newsletter and the expert picks. Also, look down the link with the description below to check out our Bet Now 50% discount by using our promo code GRIDIRON, especially with bowl games and college basketball coming up. You don't want to pass up on that. So everything's in the description below for you guys to use and to receive more college football content. And once again, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.